Do you think about Eddie Vedder at all last year, being a Cubs fan, and maybe them picking a different name for this rivalry at all?
I'm the wrong guy to ask about this question. So I'm really not into the topic. I just know we got to go out there and beat Seattle.
Yes. I mean, what were we talking about? I mean, just 2 days ago, we're talking about the Vedder Cup. By the way, Padres have one hand on the Vedder Cup, but that's neither here nor there. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Marty Time TV, the Section 1904 podcast. It is brought to you by the all-new Hamul Casino Resort. I'm Darren Smith. That's Marty Caswell. And if you're watching on Marty Time TV, in the middle is a very popular person here in Southern California today, very popular person in Major League Baseball. He's our friend from the Wall Street Journal, reporter whose report today sent shockwaves all across San Diego about Padres ownership. José Feliciano is expected to buy the San Diego Padres for $3.9 billion, along with his wife, Kwanza Jones. He's Jared Diamond of the Wall Street Journal, who we're going to talk to right out of the gate. Jared, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. We know you're busy, and great reporting. Thanks for the time.
Thanks. Yeah, pretty momentous day in the history of the San Diego Padres for sure.
I would say so. I mean, this report now, we knew there were 4 finalists, and you're reporting at the Wall Street Journal, and it seems like it's backed up in a lot of other places. Not that we have any doubts. Indicates an incredible sale price. Tell us a little bit about the process, as much as you know, and what this means right now on the surface for Padre fans.
So this was in a very hotly contested bidding process. Could not have been more different than, say, the Twins last year, who sat on the market for 10 months and were unable to find a buyer at the price their owners were looking for. This team, the Padres, had lots of interested people, and it came down, like you said, to 4. And our understanding is there were at least 3 that were $3.5 billion or more. So, and maybe it was all 4, but I know for sure it was at least 3 were $3.5 billion or more. It eventually got up to $3.9 billion in terms of the valuation, with Feliciano and his wife Kwanza Jones emerging victorious. It's a huge number. It breaks the previous Major League Baseball record for a sale by $1.5 billion. Steve Cohen bought the Mets in 2020 for $2.4 billion. So think about it. We're sitting here today. The San Diego Padres are on the verge of not only becoming the most expensive baseball team ever, but becoming the most expensive baseball team ever. And it's a blowout. Truly incredible, and a real testament to Peter Seidler and what he did with this franchise. Peter Seidler and Ron Fowler bought the Padres in 2012 for $800 million. They are selling it, or the Seidler family is going to sell it for 5 times that amount. Absolutely insane number. It is important to know that $3.9 billion is the valuation. That does not mean José Feliciano is paying $3.9 billion in cash, right? The valuation has to do with how many limited partners there are, how many people are in the group, how many of the current limited partners are staying in. But however much he's spending, it values the team at $3.9 billion. In terms of what it means in the short term, look, we'll see. That is going to be the biggest question. Is Feliciano going to spend the way Peter Seidler did? Are they going to remain sort of a big payroll team? They continue this? It's too soon for anyone to know for sure. I do think it's important to sort of understand the reason the Padres were desirable is because what they're doing is working, right? They're spending, they're winning. Fans have rewarded them. They're going to have a top 5 attendance team this year, almost certainly for the 6th consecutive season. I just don't see how anyone comes in there, spends all that money because they think this is such a valuable asset, and then immediately changes course. It doesn't really make any sense. So I would imagine that they will continue to run the payrolls they've been running. It's just hard to imagine they wouldn't.
That's good news, I'm sure, for Padre fans to hear. Jared, when this news breaks, because I'm one of the guys who likes European soccer, immediately everybody starts peppering me with questions about Chelsea Football Club. José Feliciano is part of a private equity group called Clearwater, right? Clear Lake, which is part of a group that owns Chelsea Football Club, English Premier League club, very popular in London. Clear Lake owns 60% of it. Todd Bowley, who's an owner with the Dodgers, him and the group have another piece of it. And so immediately people ask, well, what's he like as an owner at Chelsea? And I said, well, things aren't going great at Chelsea. Like, their fans do not like this team. There's this massive protest set up for Saturday ahead of the Chelsea-Manchester United game. And I said all this stuff because I was asked the question, but I don't know that any of that applies to the Padres. Is José Feliciano, is he buying the team with Kwanza Jones, his wife, or is Clear Lake buying the Padres? And like, there's a huge difference between those two. And does anything that's happening with Chelsea Football Club, in your opinion or your reporting, apply to what might happen with the Padres?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I don't think, by all accounts, I don't think it matters for a few reasons. One, Clear Lake is not buying the Padres. José Feliciano's wife are buying the Padres with a private investment. So they are going to own the team, not Clear Lake. That's number one. It's a sounds like a subtle distinction, but it's not. It's an enormous difference.
Huge.
Two, José Feliciano is not the main guy with Chelsea, right? Todd Bowley is the chairman at Chelsea. Feliciano is a part of the group. He's a co-founder of Clear Lake. I'm not saying he's not involved, but that's Bowley's team. The Padres are going to be Feliciano's. I'm not going to sit here and say José Feliciano is going to be a great owner. I have no way of knowing that. He doesn't even own the team yet. But I really do not believe anything happening with Chelsea is particularly relevant to the Padres. He does not really own Chelsea. His firm does. Todd Bowley, again, is much more involved. I just don't think we need to equate the two. If Feliciano is a terrible owner, he'll deserve all the criticism for that. But I don't think you need to sort of preemptively judge him with anything that's happening with Chelsea. The whole thing is separate and very different for a lot of reasons.
Good. And I think that's good news, because like, who even knows what the future is for Feliciano with Chelsea, right? Like, part of his Clear Lake group, there's another guy named Bedad Eghbali who's really in the crosshairs for these fans now. But for as much as I pay attention to it, I've heard a ton of criticism about Bowley and about Eghbali, who's Feliciano's business partner with Clear Lake. But I've never heard anybody go after, maybe guilt by association, I suppose. But I think that's encouraging, that this is something for him to sort of emerge perhaps from the shadows and say, hey, this is going to be my own thing. This isn't going to be linked to Chelsea. This isn't going to be linked to Strasbourg, the other club that they own in France. I think that sounds like it's really good news if I'm a Padre fan, which we all are here.
I don't think there's any reason to sort of be pessimistic immediately. Like, I get there's going to be fear. I understand that, because the Padres are coming from having an owner in Peter Seidler who was unlike anyone in baseball, right? You could make a very good argument that Peter Seidler for the years before his death was the single best owner from a fan standpoint in all of Major League Baseball, right? Like, those are big shoes to fill. And I can't sit here and promise that José Feliciano is going to be Peter Seidler. Who knows? It's just too soon to say. But I don't think you need to go in pessimistically.
Mm-hmm.
He is very rich, Feliciano, right? You Google around, see his net worth. I've seen different outlets estimate anywhere from $4 to $5.5 billion. So he has the money. Our reporting has led us to believe, our understanding is that Feliciano's plan is to move the bulk of his philanthropic efforts to San Diego. Which, if I am a resident of San Diego and a fan of the Padres, that is something I care about very much. Because the worst thing for any franchise is sort of the absentee owner. And José Feliciano is not a San Diego guy. But the idea that it's, again, from our reporting, his plan is to really ensconce himself and his money in the San Diego community, I think is a very good sign. The other thing that I think people worry about is, it's a private equity guy buying the Padres. And I understand that concern, right? You hear a private equity guy buying company, that does strike fear in people's hearts. But, there's another private equity guy from Los Angeles who has bought into a sports team before, and his name was Peter Seidler. So clearly that alone does not necessarily mean that it's going to be bad. So understand all the concerns. But if I were a Padres fan, I would be at least cautiously optimistic about this news.
Jared, I'm so glad you brought that up. The one time that we had a chance to speak to John Seidler in spring training about the impending sell, and he was asked, like, what kind of owner do you want? And he mentioned all those things. So you want someone that's going to go ahead and invest in the team, in the city, and someone with a connection to San Diego. And he does not have a connection to San Diego. But when you bring up the philanthropy, that's something that really stood out about Peter Seidler and made him so beloved. You can actually look this up. The Kwanza Jones and José Feliciano initiative. It says that we partner with nonprofits and for-profits to ensure maximum impact. We focus on 4 pillars: education, entrepreneurship, equity, and empowerment. Have committed over $250 million to these efforts. And Darren, you know it very well how much that meant to Peter Seidler with the Lucky Duck Foundation. He'd walk around, Petco Park and underserved areas and talk to homeless people. And he gave back, not with his money, but with his action. So when I'm looking for any ties as to what kind of guy is he going to be, you can read a lot about the philanthropy that he and his wife are heavily involved in. So when you're talking about reasons to be optimistic, he seems to get it, the whole sense of community. And there have been plenty of owners in San Diego who have not understood the importance of community in San Diego.
It's critical. It's absolutely critical for an owner, especially an owner who's not from the area, to become part of the community, right? You look around baseball and you point to the very clear example to me is what happened in Tampa Bay, right? With Tampa Bay Rays with Stu Sternberg. Stu Sternberg was a New York guy. He never moved to the Tampa Bay area. He stayed in New York. He saw his team probably more when they went to Yankee Stadium than he actually saw them in St. Pete. And he really was disliked by the local community. And you contrast him with Jeff Vinnick. And I know we're about as far away from San Diego right now as possible, but Jeff Vinnick owned the Tampa Bay Lightning, same market as the Rays, also not a Tampa guy. He was a Boston guy, moved his family to the Tampa Bay area, put his name on like every hospital and school in the Tampa Bay area, spent zillions of dollars in downtown Tampa building new things. And he was beloved, and the Lightning were very successful, and the fans supported them as such. So it is incredibly important, especially in a market like San Diego, that he's going to show his face. He's going to be part of the community. And if he is, he'll have success and fans will reward him. And I know that because the fans in San Diego have shown that they'll reward an owner who puts in the effort, because the Padres sort of shockingly, inexplicably, against all odds, drew more fans to their ballpark last year than any team besides the Los Angeles Dodgers. And as we sit here today, they're number 2 in attendance again. And I'm sure we'll be in the top, if not number 2, in the top 3 or 4 for the 6th straight year, almost unquestionably. So there's a good model to follow, and it's the model of the guy that you're replacing, of your Feliciano.
Jared, your headline mentions José Feliciano and wife Kwanza Jones to buy the Padres. What do we know about his wife, about Kwanza Jones?
So the reason it mentions them is because in terms of the economics of, they're going to be co-owners. They are going to have equal financial stake in the team. For the purposes of Major League Baseball, our understanding is, at least for now, the plan is for Feliciano to be the control person. So the person who has the vote. You can only have one. Major League Baseball will only acknowledge one control person per club.
Oh, we know that.
Feliciano. But yeah, exactly. You know all about that. But economically, the plan is that they are going to be co-owners of equal economic stake in the team. She has been, our understanding, she's been heavily involved in their family's philanthropic efforts, on the board of directors of things like Susan G. Komen. She runs she's the, I believe, the CEO of that Kwanza Jones and José Feliciano initiative that you mentioned. She and Jose met when they were both students at Princeton. They've known each other a long time. And I don't know all the deals. I know she was very involved in philanthropic efforts in Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria. It is actually very interesting. Major League Baseball has never had a Puerto Rican majority owner. They've also never had an African American majority owner. And Feliciano and Jones are going to be the first in both of those categories, assuming the deal goes through.
Wow.
Took the next question right out of my mouth on that one. What a proud day for baseball as well. Because I was sitting here literally trying to go through all the owners thinking like, I don't think yet we've crossed this threshold. I know that there's been Mexican minority ownership here in San Diego as well, but I don't think
Artie
we've had anything
Moreno
on that
is the
level.
Artie Moreno
Artie,
is
yeah.
the first and only Latino owner
There you
in
go.
baseball. He's of Mexican descent.
Yep.
Wow.
And of course Feliciano is Puerto Rican.
Did this come down as much as the philanthropy sounds really great in San Diego, as much as you're talking about unique ownership dynamic and groundbreaking? Is this simply just about the price and they just offered 3.9 billion and nobody else did? Did it simply come down to the highest bidder?
Yeah, I mean it always does.
Always,
Let's
right?
be honest; they're willing to pay the most. What I still don't know, and I haven't quite nailed this down yet, is how much they're actually paying. Right? It's important to recognize that saying a team is valued at 3.9 billion does not mean that Jones and Feliciano are going to pay 3.9 billion. They're not going to own 100% of the team. The Padres had a lot of limited partners into their current iteration. It's my understanding that a lot of them are planning on staying invested. So I don't know exactly what their stake is going to be, but yeah, this is the highest valuation. Look, at some point, any bidding war, you tap out unless you really want it. And they kept going and they emerged victorious. Look, Dan Friedkin, Joe Lacob, these are rich guys. They were all willing to pay 3.5 or higher, but this is where it ended up. Is it possible that there's something more that I don't know all the final bids, right? Is it possible someone else with 3.9 and the Padres chose this group? It certainly is possible, and maybe that's something that we'll learn in the coming hours or days or weeks. But I think it's safe to say nobody outbid them.
Yeah, I mean, at that price. And what does this price say to you, just overarching about Major League Baseball, especially in the context of a collective bargaining agreement showdown coming up at the end of the baseball season?
It's a great question. And depending on who you talk to about this, you get two different answers. The Major League Baseball Players Association, to them, this is the best thing that ever could have happened, right? They're going to argue, how could you need a salary cap? Look how great things are going. You just got the highest price by a lot for a team. Things are going great. Why do you need to make any changes? What management's going to say, what MLB is going to say, is that the Padres are an outlier, that they are unique for a variety of reasons. And in some ways, I understand that perspective. They are in some ways, right? As we mentioned, they are the only game in town, where they're the only major pro sports team in a giant city like San Diego. They play in a particularly wealthy region of the country, a place where there are both wealthy citizens, but also a place where a lot of wealthy people would love to invest, right? San Diego is not Minneapolis. No disrespect to Minneapolis, but there's just more rich people that are interested in buying in San Diego than they are in Minneapolis. Number three, you have a ballpark that, beyond being one of the best ballparks in baseball, it's in a place where you could use that ballpark 162 days a year. 365 days a year, if you want it, because of the weather in San Diego, which just ups your sort of revenue opportunities. So that's not the case in most markets. So I do agree that San Diego, Southern California is a place that's going to draw bigger money than most. That said, I also look 3.9 or 3.9. I understand the union saying like, hey, what's the problem? You just sold for this much. The league will say, well, the Twins didn't. They didn't sell at all. The Nationals have had trouble selling, right? Like the Padre that just sort of a one of one, or maybe not one of one, but a one of very few. It just adds more fuel to that fire as we get into bargaining. It's definitely going to add a talking point to both sides. No question about it.
Mm-hmm. My last thing for me, Jared, do we expect the Silos to be completely out? Will they hold on to any minority stake of this team, or just goodbye? They're done.
I honestly have no idea of that at this point. It's not something that's come up in my reporting. It's a great question. It's a question I wish I'd asked. Honestly, it's a question I hadn't really thought about when I was trying to sort of get this out there. So I guess stay tuned. I don't know the answer to that.
All right. Well, and then the next steps here, just chronologically speaking, I think owners meetings set for June, if I'm not mistaken. So would that be, maybe some formal announcement, and then the protocol would be to get to the owners meetings when next they all convene?
There'll be an announcement before that. My understanding is they were planning an announcement, before we and others kind of blew up their spot early next week. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a formal announcement as soon as like Monday. I'm not promising, but I wouldn't be surprised. There's nothing stopping the owners from getting together and confirming, doing the vote sooner than the owners meeting. They've done it before. They don't need to wait till the quarterly owners meeting if they could sort of get together on Zoom like we are right now and vote. I don't think it's a big deal either way. He's going to be vote. There are not going to be any issues with the vote. It's going to be unanimous. There's not going to be any concerns about him. He's already been vetted. So the vote is just a formality. So I would expect he will take over officially, within the next few weeks and months, sometime this season.
Great reporting, Jared. Thank you for thinking of us as always. We appreciate it. Congrats. Keep up the good work, and we'll be following along to see the updates.
Very exciting. Hope to talk to you guys again soon. Hey, the team's amazing. Mason Miller is the greatest pitcher I've ever seen in my life. So we should just get back on the phone and talk about that sometime.
I think you should write about him so we can talk about that soon.
Yeah.
Let's do
They
that.
won 8 straight games. It's like, oh, who cares? Let's
maybe stay tuned on Mason Miller's appearing in the Wall Street Journal.
All right, we're going to keep your phone number. We're going to keep your phone number on a speed dial and make sure. By the way, he just got a bunch of Korn gear. So he has the walkout song or his entry to Korn. And yesterday they sent him like an entire swag bag. So Mason Miller now has swag from Korn, from the band.
Love it.
Darren's favorite band.
Love it. All right, guys. Well, thanks a lot.
You're
Talk
the
to you
best.
again soon.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Jared.
Jared.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, bye-bye.
All right, Jared Diamond of the Wall Street Journal, who did have the breaking news this morning. Again, like I was waiting to go on Ben and Woods, and I get a text message from Jared like, "Hey, you might be interested in the story." I'm like, and then I go on Ben and Woods. They're like, "Tell us about Chelsea." I'm like, funny you should ask. Like their fans are like having some massive protests tomorrow, so I don't know how great it's going. But I think that Jared being able to provide some of that context about it's not Clear Lake. We don't think it's not Clear Lake. It is Jose Feliciano and his wife Kwanza Jones who were buying this. Because I did say that on the show. I was like, now maybe this is just an opportunity for him to emerge from the background of Todd Bowley. Like they hate Todd Bowley and they hate one of Feliciano's business partners, a guy named Bidad Egbali. Like those are the guys that they really hate, who I always hear on the podcast, who I always read about. And I was like, well, it's not Feliciano, so I guess that's good. Like they're not burning him in effigy on the streets of London. So I guess that's a good
that's a good sign.
Yeah. So maybe he's not. Maybe there are way worse characters in this story. But it's still guilt by association, I suppose, for some. And I know this news has even had a ripple effect in London because I've checked out some of the English newspapers, and they're like, oh, like, but if it's him. With his wife, and they've looked and they've said, hey, listen, this isn't just some private equity asset for us to pick up because, it makes sense once we put it into our algorithm. They sounds like they looked and said, this is a really good opportunity for us, not just to pick up an asset, which is what private equity does, but much like Peter Seidler, it sounds like, and everybody can say this sort of stuff today. Proof will be, walk the walk.
Yep.
But it sounds like this could be like legacy defining for us, not just in terms of the bottom line. It sounds that way, to be optimistic and to be excited about what this potentially could look like with this combination.
I really hope so, because we are seeing Peter's legacy right now. And I'm not even talking about what the team is selling for, but we're seeing it at Petco Park. We're seeing it with the sellouts. We're seeing it last year with the attendance. We're seeing it with the playoff run. We're seeing it with the jersey sales. We're seeing it with the number of star players. That's what Peter Seidler built in San Diego, an expectation that wasn't here before. So that to me is his legacy. Hopefully Feliciano and Kwanza Jones, they can go ahead and continue it and then cement their own by really delivering. And I think it's important. You want to have you want an owner that's invested, not someone that just wears the SD pin, walks around, look at me, like, like what's his name, Jeff Morad used to do, but someone who really who becomes part of the community, and the philanthropy is a good start. I wonder how many Padre players are going to be walking the clubhouse today wearing Chelsea gear, New Jerseys.
I mean, hopefully none, but we don't need to go to that level. But again, I also think there's a little bit of a toxicity with that at this point that and it's not just a bunch of miserable fans, because, Chelsea fans are sort of whatever. But yeah, I do think that, even some of the way they've run the business, it's like, they bring in a coach and then that coach is like, hey, what are we doing around here? Are we trying to win anything? No, like, I'm leaving. I'm out. And, it kind of rips the club on the way out the door. But again, I never heard that directly linked to him. I'm not saying he's not a part of it. I've never heard it directly linked. And I've been paying attention.
Okay.
Because I've learned this name, José Feliciano, through the Padre sale process. So I was paying attention to what it is that happens more with Chelsea than I ever would have. I don't care about them at all. So, I was paying attention, though, just to look through the lens of what, it might potentially mean. And I did worry that this would just become some sort of asset acquisition, that this would just be like, yeah, okay, like our numbers crunchers, everybody decided that this would be a good asset. Maybe we could strip it down and sell it for parts and all that. And I know that sounds crazy at 3.9, but that's like, that's not a lot of money for some of these private equity companies. Mm-hmm. So, like you start thinking along those lines, and it sounds like, at least early on, the approach feels like it's going to be a little bit different than it has been for some of the other acquisitions from the company Clearlake. Now, again, proof will be in how they operate, not just in some of the theories, but I do like what you're hearing out of the gate. I do like that. I do like that a couple people who have Southern California roots. Yeah. Feliciano was born in Puerto Rico, but spent a lot of time, grew up Southern California, went to Stanford. So, it's not like, well, where's he from? He's from where? What? Like, how does this make sense? Like you can sort of piece it all together, and, you can head into the weekend feeling like, okay, like let's see what this looks like. I'm optimistic. I don't have a sense of dread like I might, just thinking about some soulless company being in here, right? To just treat it like it's a commodity.
Can I just say, selfishly, I'm glad it wasn't Tom Gorse. Because now we can stop with the whole conversation about the Chargers and having that linked, and just, hey, maybe he might move the franchise or bring the Chargers. No. I'm just
Plus, everything I heard about Gorse is like he's almost impossible to be in contact with. I mean, he's like a total non-entity. He doesn't connect it with anybody in Detroit. He doesn't connect with anybody in Los Angeles, where he's a minority owner with the Chargers. Okay. They're like, you're never going to hear from this guy. Like, this is a guy who is a ghost. You might see him, but he doesn't want to talk to anybody, won't stop, won't chat. I don't know that that'll be different here with José Feliciano. But if you're going to be, this involved and this interested in the community, one would think that maybe, you're going to be within arm's reach. Maybe we're not always going to have the access that we all have with Peter Seidler, right? Where like we all probably still have text messages on our phone from Peter. I know I do. Yeah. You probably do as well.
I do.
And I save them for very, for personal reasons.
Yeah.
But in terms of feeling like it's closer to that than just some completely empty vessel venture capitalist, it feels like at least at first look, Marty, like it's more the former rather than the latter. All right.
Closure. I know you got to hustle, Darren, but I'll just last thing. I wish I did want to find out, and I don't think maybe Jared would know. It doesn't matter now. Who was the group that Drew Brees and Fiore tried to partner with? That's what I want to know. But we'll find out. I'm sure it'll be interesting. Next week should be interesting, Darren. Maybe you can get Bad Bunny to buy in.
Would love that.
With some Puerto Rican ties. Let's go.
I mean, let's put him in Gallagher Square. Once a week, you get Bad Bunny. The post game.
I can't believe that Matt Waldron's return is being overshadowed. Wow.
I mean, just imagine. I mean, what we've learned our lesson from the puffer vest, so I'm sure we'll have enough security to Could manage the situation. All right, I gotta go do like my 50th
Bye.
show of the fucking
All right,
day
Darren,
today.
I'm going to go ahead. Listen, that was great. Everybody who's watching, you can also listen to this on the Section 1904 podcast. We'll make it available, Apple, Spotify. Darren has nothing but time to go ahead and edit this today. So we'll make sure that we repurpose this in all your feeds. That is Darren Smith. Thanks to Jared Diamond of the Wall Street Journal, who broke the news in the Padres record sale, $3.9 billion. José Feliciano and his equal partner wife, Kwanza Jones. D. Smith, Marty Caswell. We are brought to you by the all-new Hamul Casino Resort, the Players Place. Have a great weekend. We will talk to you probably in about 5 minutes. Bye, D. Smith.
First off, stand up.
I'm just gonna do it because you have way more years than me in the show.
That's right, repeta. Hey, coming off first week of the season, Fernando, how do you feel the energy of the team is building as the season is progressing?
Feel great.
Una palabra nada más? Nice, that's how I would do it.